So you are tuned into the Labor Forum here on WRFG 89.3 FM. My name is Diane Mathewitz, co-host and former auto worker for 30 years for General Motors. And co-host next to me is Paul McLennan. How long did you work for MARTA?
18 years.
18 years. So anyhow, the two of us are hoping that we just lost our phone call from Selma, Alabama, and we're going to talk a little bit and do a little background so that when Kim and Letasha get on the phone again, we'll be able to kind of go into it. This is a struggle that is being waged by auto parts workers really across the country. One of the things that, as a GM employee, when I first started, there were so many elements of the production of a vehicle that was done what's called in-house. And that meant that we were all unionized, we all were getting good wages, and we had many benefits, pension, and of course the grievance procedure, and holidays, and health care. And what happened over the course of the 30 years that I worked for General Motors was that more and more of these elements of the production of a vehicle either got actually totally moved and produced out of the country elsewhere, or were produced by subcontracted companies. So some of those things are like the seats that are in an automobile. It can be the whole dashboard with all the gauges. It can be a variety of things that, as I said before, unionized auto workers put all those parts together. And so what happened is that more and more of a vehicle comes in big shipments, in big train boxcars or on trucks, and they've been sub-assembled elsewhere. And oftentimes those workers receive barely above minimum wage. If that, they have next to no protections on the job. There's a lot of chemicals and other kinds of dangerous substances that are often used in the production of a car. And so one of those places is the Hyundai plant that is actually in Montgomery, Alabama, and it has a parts plant in Selma. There are in fact several parts plants that have sort of been spun off and that supply Hyundai. But the workers at this Lear, it's owned by Lear Corporation, which is a huge multinational, they produce the seats. And so we are still waiting for Kim and Letasha to call back. And actually, we will try to see if we can call them and see what the issue is with the phones here. We've had them on previously, and perhaps we can play maybe a little song while I look for their phone number and we give them a call. Hi. It's always so interesting with technology, even a telephone. Hi, how are you doing?
Fine, and you? Hey.
So actually, that was a great song for you to come in on. We will not obey. We will not tolerate injustice, and we're not going to take racism. All right, so listeners, the voices you hear are calling us from Selma, Alabama. Two absolutely terrific, wonderful, outstanding women in the struggle of workers. Hi. So we're talking to Kim King and Letasha Irby. Hi.
Hi.
All right, so while we were having this little technical difficulty, I sort of did a little background about how it happens that there are so many of these small auto parts plants that have sprung up around the country, and how when I was first started as an auto worker, the jobs actually that you do were done in-house, so that everybody was a UAW member. We all had living wages, we had pensions, benefits, health care, contract, grievance procedure, holidays, et cetera, et cetera. And how over the last decades of the really fight, the attack on unionization, what the auto companies of from all different corporations have done is to outsource large parts of the process so that the assembly plants get in things like seats, which is what you make. So, can you tell us a little bit about the fight that you have been having at the Lear Corporation about working conditions, wages, and other issues?
Yes, well, last year on May 8th, we did our first march on the boss, and we asked them to give everyone a breathing test, and we asked for the OSHA 300 law, and we asked for explanation of how and why was the TDI alarm, continuously going off. I mean, we basically were fighting to get a union so we can have a voice, so we can have a better workplace and better wages. But it's been kind of hard because the company has been fighting us tooth and nail.
What was the alarm that you just mentioned going off?
The TDI alarm.
And what is that?
The TDI is a chemical that's used to make the phone seat, and when exposed to it can cause lifelong asthma and bronchitis and other problems.
And this is an alarm that measured the amount that was in the air, and if it got to be too high, it would go off?
Yes, sir.
And it kept going off.
Yes, sir, and it's still going off till this day.
Okay, so you all have done some really creative things. You obviously did organizing in the plant. The thing that seems to have really annoyed Lear Corporation is when you took a delegation to Hyundai headquarters and actually asked them to take some steps to make sure that their subcontracted businesses operated safely. So could you talk a little bit about that delegation to Hyundai?
When we did the delegation to Hyundai, I had a letter, but we did not leave the letter there. And then when I came back to work that Monday, I got suspended for a week.
Folks, this is the voice of Kim King.
Yeah, I got suspended for a week, and then told me come back that Monday. And that Monday, they wanted me to sign a paper stating that all I did, which I wouldn't sign the statement, and then I got fired that day. So I have been terminated from Lear on the 16th of March. And I had to go, and then they sued me, and I had to go to court in Montgomery. And then after nothing was resolved in Montgomery, OSHA turned around and sued them and put a restraining order on them. They put a restraining order on me, but OSHA turned around and sued them, and we had to go to federal court in Mobile.
All right, so let's explain this a little bit more about what I don't even know how to describe this. So essentially, Lear Corporation said that you, as a worker in their plant, seeing certain conditions, were essentially to be gagged. That what you had to say was damaging to them. So it wasn't anything about what they were doing to you is damaging to you.
Oh, they just ignored that.
So let's explain this again. When they tried to tell you that you couldn't even talk about the plant, you couldn't talk about what was going on there, that was really quite an extraordinary intimidation tactic, I think.
Yes, it was. It was like I didn't even have a First Amendment right, and it was just like I couldn't say anything, but they could talk all they want.
Right. My understanding is that they did, in fact, talk about you.
Yes, ma'am.
So they said all kinds. They said that you essentially lied.
Yes. That I wasn't sick. They basically talked about the air, but besides being exposed through the air, you could get exposed through your hands and your skin.
Okay.
By touching other.
All right. So what really is that they have been cited by OSHA before. And I think people should know that you also won a lawsuit against them for wages that they illegally withheld.
Yes, ma'am. in 2008, they had a wage theft lawsuit where they wasn't paying you right overtime, and it took us like 6 or 7 years to get that money back. And I'm looking like, well, is this the same company that's stealing your wages? If there's nothing right for them to do right now, to me, I mean, they're just going to, as long as you don't say anything, they're going to continue to cover up what they're doing and get away with what they're doing. And that's basically what I feel they did to Kim. They know what's going on in the plant. Kim's not the first worker that had, health problems, but we're just finding out now what's the cause of the health problem. And they know they're in the wrong, but they don't want the public to find out. So if we can make her be quiet, won't no one find out.
Obviously, it didn't work.
And it's not going to work.
And that's why you're on. That's why you're on the labor forum, because you two are really an example of the genuine, unbelievable fighting spirit that exists in among so many different workers and so many different industries and so many different places around the world. And what we find out, of course, is that your story doesn't get covered by corporate media, and that's why a program like the Labor Forum and WRFG is so important. So can we ask what's ahead now? What's happening now?
Well, now they can't terminate, suspend, harass, sue, or threaten any of the workers there, and I still have to go back to court to decide whether or not they're gonna let me back reinstate me back to my post at that plant.
Okay, so what you just said, that's what the court ruled on the OSHA lawsuit. They essentially said that the way that Lear was responding with threats and intimidation and firings and all the rest of it, they cannot do that.
That's correct.
Were there other elements of what you won or what OSHA won in that suit? I mean, do they have to clean up the air? Do they have to provide?
They didn't get all into that, so okay. But we still got to go back to court.
All right. So now, one of the things I said as we were, trying to get you back online, was that this process of having lots of smaller plants supplying the big assembly plants, and it doesn't matter where it's Ford or GM or Chrysler or Hyundai or Kia or whoever, that's kind of what it is. There's an assembly plant, and then there's dozens and dozens and dozens of smaller, oftentimes owned by big corporations, but nevertheless smaller facilities, 100 workers, 200 workers, whatever, who work for really just a little bit above minimum wage. Could you talk a little bit about the wages and benefits that you have?
Well, after 10 years, this is Letasha, after 10 years, I'm only making $12 an hour, and I just recently got to $12 an hour in March. But from 2010 to 2014, in the year 2010, they was worth like $12 billion, and last year they up to $17.7 billion.
This is Lear Corporation.
Yes. I mean, a company making that type of money, and then they tell you that they can't afford to pay you $15 or $16, they're lying. And I mean, they can afford to pay you, but without you having a voice, who can make them pay you that type of money? I mean, they're like I said, I went to a shareholders meeting on May 14th, and they were talking about how good the company's doing and their commitment to their shareholders and their customers. I mean, they need to hold that same commitment to their workers.
I was going to ask you about that shareholders meeting, because it seems to me that's another way that you really tried to break out of this silence or lack of information. So can you talk a little bit about what happened at that shareholders meeting?
I mean, basically, he was just, telling how well the company was doing in revenue, and that they work well with unionized facilities. But still, he said they work well with unionized facilities, but he had his management down here telling the workers that they don't need a union. If the union come in, that they just want their money, that If the union come in, the plant's gonna close. There's all kind of bizarre stuff. They're just scaring the people. They're just really freaking them out.
So,
And they're believing it.
so did you all get to speak at this meeting?
Yes, I did. I had a speech. I had a letter that I had. Would you like to hear it?
Of course.
Okay.
Because I don't think we heard any reports about this at the stockholders meeting, so this is your chance to read that letter that you presented to that corporation to the whole wide world.
Okay. I said, good morning. My name is Letasha Irby, and I am proud to be one of the people working to form a union at our plant in Selma, Alabama. There's no doubt that by now you may know my story and the story of my coworkers. We have done dangerous work at low pay for years. I am not here to debate whether the Selma plant is safe. I know what our doctors tell us. I see the medication my coworkers have to take to treat their asthma. I read what OSHA said and researched how a safe, efficient foam plant is supposed to operate. No matter how much management tries to scare us or mislead us or play games with the facts, I'm confident that the truth is on our side. I'm here to remind you of one thing. The workers in Selma are people, human beings, children of God. We are not pawns in some game. We are not trying to hurt the company. We are not troublemakers. We want to work. We want to earn a decent living, and at the end of our shift, we want to go home safe. I am a mother of 2 young children. I want to be healthy and well as they grow up. I do not want to be a burden on them when I am older. I want to be able to give them the very best. In that way, I bet I am a lot like all of you. We all want the best for our families, and we're all willing to do what it takes to get it. That's why I'm still standing up, speaking out, and coming together with my coworkers to call for better jobs at Lear and Selma, even after a year.
Well, I hope they all applauded that. What was the response?
He said, well, the CEO, Matt Simonini, he wants to talk about the allegations on the air. He keeps saying that the air is safe. But just like Kim said, and I would reiterate, the air isn't the only way a person can be exposed. They can also be exposed through their skin. And they fail to tell that. They keep on talking about the air. They focusing mainly on the air.
All right, so the official response then from the president or CEO of the company was, after you said what you said, he just said the air was safe.
Yes, ma'am. But I would like to know, if the air is safe, why are the TDI alarms still going off to this day?
Right. So let's just do a little more background on this. How many people work at the plant?
Anywhere from probably 80 to 100. It may not be 100. Just in that range from 80 to 100 people.
And do you run 2 shifts or 3?
3 shifts on the seat line and 2 shifts on the headrest line.
And so is there overtime also?
Yes, ma'am.
So you work more than an 8-hour day sometimes and more than 5 days a week?
Yes, ma'am.
How many people in the plant out of the 80 to 100 are in a similar situation as you in terms of people with families? And are they young, or are they kind of all different ages, or how does that look?
They range from young to old, but mostly more younger people.
Younger people with families?
Yes, sir.
And so how are the benefits for taking care of your kids in terms of insurance?
I mean, to me, I feel like we have decent insurance, but with you having insurance and not making enough, your wages not being good, and then they're taking your insurance out of your check, and then other stuff that no taxes, so you still don't have enough money to provide adequately for your family.
So what's the status as far as the union's concerned? You're saying that people are being influenced a lot by the fear that the company's putting out?
Yes, they're scaring them. They're telling them a whole bunch of lies that they know aren't true. And because of so many problems with the labor with the union, we had to put it off on hold, and so we're waiting on file charges against Lear for things that they did when we were trying to organize as a union, and so we're waiting to hear from that.
So essentially you're going to do unfair labor practices charges, because one of the things that we have talked about many times on this program is the ability of a company to, really corral workers into meetings where they say things like the plant will close, they do all kinds of threatening things, and then union organizers really don't get the equivalent ability to talk to workers. They're often, they can't go into the plant. The workers inside the plant, such as you, lots of times you're watched who you talk to. It gets to be a very, it's a very threatening thing for folks when their job is what's keeping a roof over their family's head.
Yes, and that's when you just get one side of the story, you don't get the other side so you can make your opinion on what's going on.
Right.
You always, it's a one-sided story. You always hearing just one side of a story.
All right, so Kim and Letasha, we only got a few minutes left, and so if you wouldn't mind letting our listeners know how they can keep in touch with you, whether there's something that they can do to support you in Selma, but also there is really national campaigns, and there have been some election victories at other auto parts plants around the country where workers are understanding that, just what you said, that if you don't have a union, you don't have a voice. So can you give us some website or email or Facebook, telephone numbers, so our listeners can stay in touch with you?
We have a web page. You go on Facebook and it says, "Who really made your car? Who really made your car?" And you will get a lot of information on that web page.
All right. I want to thank you for giving us some of your time today on Monday, May 25th. Now, this is now the, I think, third time that we've had you on. You're going to be co-host in a minute.
And I wanted to second what Diane said about how inspiring it is to hear both of you. And of course, we heard a lot of us saw the movie Selma, but I think this is the modern day movement that we need in this country for workers like you that are really leading the way. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
You're very, very welcome. Okay, listeners, now that again is the website for how you can keep up, not with just Kim King and find out what's happening with the attempts to gag her, but also all of the brave people at the Selma Lear plant and other auto plants around the country. You will find out information as well about their victories and struggles at that website, Who Really Made Your Car. Again, this is, we're going to say bye for now to Kim and Letasha, and we know that you'll be back again with an update.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, listeners, with just a tiny technical glitch today, I do hope you enjoyed hearing our guests who appeared on the Labor Forum. I want to remind you that we have a website as well, wrfglaborforum.org, where you can also keep in touch with us, and that's our videos. And we want to announce we just have our first Labor Forum t-shirts. We will have them available for sure at the block party that WRFG is having on July 18th, and maybe we'll figure out a way to break them out before then. And we have a survey. We very much want you to go to the website, do the survey so that we can better serve your interests and your needs on this program. This is Diane saying goodbye for today.
Goodbye.